What's up, y'all? I am Marcus, also known as EMB, and welcome back to From the Dark. Today we're going to go back to the beginning of things in a lot of ways, but first I just want to point out I'm using a plus 10 halberd now, a plus 2 elite knight helm, armor of the glorious, sorcerer gauntlets, black leather boots, just changing the equipment up a little bit. Once again, I went back to that same farming spot that I showed you guys before in the depths, where I was farming the slimes, trying to get the large shards. Note here, the halberd and the lucerne at these stat levels are identical in damage. Absolutely identical in damage. The only difference is there's some slight, well, there's a few slight differences, but some of the most important ones being, of course, that lucerne only does thrust damage, whereas the halberd can do slashes. But lucerne's also actually 0.5 units lighter, which is kind of interesting to me, but we're going to mess around with the halberd today, and later on in the playthrough, I want to show off some more of the important differences between the halberd and lucerne. But I'm mostly just swapping up my equipment to keep things fresh for you guys. But I believe that is the Great Hollow. People have been asking. I do believe that was the Great Hollow tree that we're seeing over there, that we'll see down in Blighttown. This roll, absolutely easier to make when you are not at your lightest equipment load. You actually roll a bit farther there. And we are mid-rolling today, actually, as part of my changing my equipment up. What's the word I'm looking for? Changing my equipment up. Like, platform, I don't know. I don't know what I want to say. Why would we find an asylum key on the roof? Maybe the crow dropped him and missed the nest. The Undead Asylum is a giant undead prison segmented by countless iron bars, but even if a hero found a key in Lordran to liberate this prison, would he have the means or the heart to ever come back? Well, we got the heart, and we actually do have the means, and it's something we've talked a bit about the crow before, like why it's willing to help us. You can actually see the light shaft's graphical effect start here at the top of this. This is really cool. I like just kind of looking around from this vantage point. You can see the walls of the undead burg over there, and I believe the depths are actually like down below that and leading down into Blighttown. And once again, like I said, I'm pretty sure that's the Great Hollow over there. Like 99.9% sure that that's the Great Hollow over there. When I said we're going back to the beginning of things, I meant it. Like, we're going back to the beginning of the game, but I don't know. When I played this, and this is obviously post-commentary, but when I played this, man, I was just kind of like caught up in the memories of going back and doing this all for the first time. Back when I played the Japanese version, we could see the aqueducts going to the Undead Burg over there. Yeah, that's got to be the Hollow. Really cool that you can see that from here. Actually see down into Blighttown, in fact. But it just, man, so many memories started coming back. And as for why this crow wants to help us out, I don't know, a lot of people think Velka. And while we're going back to the beginning, I want to talk about some kind of basic concepts for the series, for the Souls series, because it's one of those things that when Miyazaki-san and FromSoft, when he's getting his team ready, and they're starting the design process, the early concept pages for the game, they have. I'm not gonna go into too much specifics, but they do have a system that they use where he comes up with ideas and bounces them off the team. And here's what they have to think about what he wants to say, and they talk about basic concepts such as what what fire actually means, what it actually represents, what the dark is. Like, so these are things that it really adds a lot of depth to the game. Like, it's hard to read too much into the game because of the amount of thought they actually put into it. More on that in a second. First, I gotta show off this awesome crow trade over here. You may have noticed this little nest. It's a little bit of a Demon Souls throwback.
You, give me warm, give me soft.
So here, if you leave certain items in the nest and reload the area, the crow will trade with you. And you just leave an item dropped in the nest, and then when you come back, you can just pick up the item that's laying on the ground. Rubbish is one of the things that you actually could drop, and I'll use this just to demonstrate how it works. This was in Demon Souls as well, and I wonder if they did it just because it's an easy way to program the trade. Just to have you reload the area and there be a different item. I'm really not sure.
You, give me warm, give me soft.
And now we got a chunk, which is pretty damn valuable compared to that rubbish. Shout outs to SK there. I just got to when Snuggly's involved. But going back to talking about the meaning of fire and the meaning of the dark, I don't want to tip my hand too much. I will probably be playing Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin, after Dark Souls From the Dark, because they're going to be keeping some of that lore in Dark Souls 3. Like, that's just my strong suspicion. Some of the stuff I imagine just probably will just be left off, but I think there are elements of that game that are important. Don't want to tip my hand too much here, but one of the things I've been thinking about is these fire keepers, these bonfire keepers in Dark Souls, their souls are gnawed at by infinite humanity. The bonfires actually burn humanity away. So by staying near their fire, they're burning away the humanity that's gnawing at their souls. What would happen if they didn't? What would happen if they didn't stay at their bonfire? Like, what would happen to their soul? I just want you guys to think about that. Like I said, I don't want to tip my hand too much, but just think about the possible ramifications of that. And we've also discussed that the young, nubile females have more humanity, it seems, than less nubile ones. Oh, man. Sorry, Oscar. He could have been a contender, man. He could have been a contender. You could have been so much more in this game. But you're cut. You're cut, Oscar. We get the crest shield. Gives us the actual lore on Oscar, since he's no longer Oscar. Now, he is just shield of a nameless knight, likely a high-ranked knight of Astora. One of the enchanted blue shields, the crest shield greatly reduces magic damage. Gotta love those enchanted blue shields, but just a nameless knight, likely high-ranked from Astora. And you'll see it does, in fact, cut 80% of magic damage as well as 100% physical. Very, very useful for certain boss fights. If you're having trouble with Moonlight Butterfly, this is a shield that helps out a lot there, too. I think that I just now noticed, actually, when I was playing through this, that you can actually see the item from here thanks to the hole in the wall. Like, that's got to be very deliberate. Like, there's no reason to just randomly have... I have to feel like it was placed intentionally there. Sometimes it's possible to read too much into these games, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later in this episode, but... they put so much thought into things. It's really brilliant. It's really great. It's really great to see that much care and craftsmanship going into the games, but I do think there is a difference between the young and the old, and the fertile and the infertile when it comes to humanity. And these are just things like the basic topic of what happens to a bonfire keeper if she doesn't fulfill her duties as a keeper. And does it matter if she's young or old, fertile or infertile? Those are just ideas I would like for you to think about as we move forward. And not that answers may necessarily be forthcoming. It's just that sort of thing, you know, but these walls so smooth. And we actually did come here for this primarily, this rusted iron ring. I decided to just go ahead and do this now. Several people suggested it. This iron ring was used to shackle the guilty. It is terribly rusted and faintly stained with blood. Makes it easier to walk around in swamps. Shackle the guilty. Now, it's really an interesting way to phrase it because of the connotations and the associations with Velka. Like the goddess of sin and, you know, the book of the guilty. Like, it's that word guilty, that's very interesting. I'm not saying it necessarily has a connection to Velka. It could just be that anyone who's undead is ipso facto guilty. You know, you're guilty of being a cursed undead. You need to be shackled away in the asylum, imprisoned for all eternity. And on the topic of being imprisoned for all eternity, people have asked about what are all these corpses doing around in Lordran if everybody's undead? Like, you see, like, hollow corpses. So what's up with that? And I think it's a really good question. Part of me believes that death, the undead actually can eventually die. That's kind of my suspicion. Like, they don't necessarily revive forever until the end of time, but you just have to kill them a lot more. I don't know. I mean, I'm not positive on this at all. Like, this is just my kind of a guess. I did want to point out here, once again, this is 100% physical reduction, which is considerably better for blocking than our target shield is. Of course, the target shield, great for parrying. Hope you guys like the glorious style here. I thought we'd mix things up in mid-roll for a bit. This is also part of what I meant about going back to the beginning of things and kind of all the memories that I was having playing this specific part. Because one of my best experiences playing the Souls game was the first time that I fought Stray Demon, and specifically the first time that I beat him. Those videos still exist. They're still around, although God knows part of me wants to like delete all my old videos because they're just they're terrible. But the stuff that I said in that video is as true today as it was then. When you're fighting one of these bosses, the key being to just stay cool, not get frustrated, keep your head up, observe the enemy's attacks, try to figure out how it's hitting you and how you can avoid them. And this boss was very tricky for me when I first fought it because there weren't any strategies available. It was just all kind of me figuring it out and, you know, figuring out little things like, okay, his stupid big fat hitbox on that one attack actually does hit behind him, and so you actually have to give him some space. Or this fire wave that he has here, or actually I think it's technically magic damage, which is I think why I equipped the curse shield when I was playing this. I was like, oh, not only does it look good, but it also pretty good on him, although I think it would burn through my stamina really quickly, and so it wouldn't really help a whole lot, but I digress. This boss, it was a great experience, despite the fact that you have to stare at an ugly ass demon butthole the whole fight. It was a really great experience. It was really fun. And this area overall, like, people give from a lot of shit about reusing this particular boss model for 3 separate bosses, because it's used for Asylum Demon, it's used for Stray Demon, it's used for Fire Sage Demon, and that's fair enough. But given that this is kind of just a secret little hidden boss, like, I think they did a lot with this area that they didn't have to do with the Undead Asylum. The whole return trip to come back here, like, they reused the starting tutorial area to actually be kind of a semi-challenging secret area that you can revisit. And I mean, I think they did a really good job with the resources that they had. it does detract somewhat from Fire Sage Demon, but you know, then again, Fire Sage Demon is on fucking fire, and that room is an asshole to fight in too because there's obstacles everywhere. But it goes back a little bit to it kind of also represents this idea of this demon race. Like, it's not just one or two of them, like they're everywhere. And we see it again in Isleth, where there's Taurus, Kappa. Like, so I'm not really sure how I feel about it in the end. Like, I can understand the criticisms of reusing a boss model 3 times or what have you, but they are kind of 3 different bosses, and to be a hidden boss, this one was really great. The struggles I had fighting him with a Drake sword. The FPS, man. Love how you can actually see up into the upper room if you aim your camera up during this fight. Part of the original opening that I had too. People love that, but oh, okay, here's some EMB trivia for you. Trivia question. What did I use my first Titanite slab on in Dark Souls? What piece of equipment did I use my first Titanite slab on in Dark Souls? I already gave you a hint. You see, we're sitting here on a pile of bones and skulls, and this is part of what leads me to believe that undead actually can in fact die, because this is the undead asylum, and I suspect that these are undead that have been thrown down in here. But this room is really interesting because they do give you a gameplay hint as to a way out. They put this torch over here specifically so that you can find the ladder to get out of here, but the room itself doesn't really make any sense because there's no clear entrance and exit. Like, okay, there's a ladder over here up onto a platform that does not lead to anything. It doesn't lead to a door. The only way you can get out is through these broken iron bars. Now, maybe it was supposed to be a gate. Like, I don't know. To me, I mean, you could look at it like, well, the building was repurposed to be an asylum or something like that. But to me, I think sometimes you just can't think too hard about it. It's really what it comes down to. Oop, not hollow shield. My target shield back. Anyway, it's just an interesting little point of this room is that it doesn't seem to serve any purpose except to dispose of undead and let the stray demon kill them over and over and over until they have completely lost hope, go completely hollow, and then he crushes their souls entirely and they have no life force left. And literally returning to the beginning. The Black Knights have now shown up in the Undead Asylum. And we got lucky. We got another Black Knight weapon. We got the Black Knight sword this time. So we can get some lore out of that, actually. The Black Knight sword. Great sword of the Black Knights who wander Lordran, used to face chaos demons. The large motion that puts the weight of the body into the attack reflects the great size of their adversaries long ago. This might actually explain why there are demons here at the asylum, that they've actually been captured and brought here to guard the undead, that the Black Knights fought against them and brought them here. And we could talk more about the relationship between Gwyn and his knights and Isleth and her witches, particularly once we get into Lost Isleth a little bit more. But also, it's time. The Peculiar Doll. Very vital item. Leads to a secret realm where you can meet the character who was almost the hero, the protagonist of this game. A strange doll in a strange dress. There once was an abomination who had no place in this world. She clutched this doll tightly and eventually was drawn into a cold and lonely painted world. The abomination being mentioned here is most likely Priscilla. I don't think there's any reason to doubt it. Priscilla being a character that Miyazaki-san still doesn't want to talk too much about publicly. Because, I mean, like, even in interviews, he said, I don't really want to talk too much about it, but she was, in fact, designed to be... First of all, she wasn't designed at FromSoft, she was designed outside the company, but she was designed to be the protagonist of Dark Souls originally. Intriguing. Obviously, that role has been changed. But the Black Knights, and going back to the topic of the Black Knights, we will talk more about Priscilla when we meet her, because we will meet her. And we are doing DLC for all the people who keep asking. Yeah, we are doing the DLC content as well. But the Black Knights originally, like it said, who wander Lordran, they originally were actually supposed to wander about. They had a similar concept, I guess, for, what was it, the jailers in Demon? No, I can't remember right now. There was an enemy in Demon Souls that they originally wanted to prowl about. Maybe it was the Reapers. I can't remember. God, I can't remember right now. I want to say it was an enemy at the Shrine of Storms that was supposed to do it. But they gave up on the idea, and the Black Knights were supposed to do it here, but they gave up on that once again for unspecified reasons, probably technical issues. I mean, because the pathing would probably be like a pain in the butt, right? But they're just so damn metal. I love the Black Knights. Once again, I believe it was Hatsuyama. Was it Hatsuyama Mai? Same designer that designed the gargoyles, if I'm remembering correctly. She did a good job. She did a really, really, really good job. And this puts us back out here. Wish you could actually make this jump, but you cannot. Or at least I didn't. I don't think you can. It's interesting if you've seen... Well, never mind. I won't talk about that. I can't talk about that. Never mind. These statues are another like point of fascination for me because they're kind of demonic in nature. And if you compare that to the stuff that you find in Lordran, it's quite different. And it's almost a little bit... It seems like it would fit more in Izalith than it would fit in Anne Orlando, for example. And I say that because, like, they're very much... Izalith's theme is chaos. And Angkor Wat, I think, was cited as a specific, like, influence on the design. Like Miyazaki-san said, he wanted something kind of... He felt like something kind of chaotic coming from Asia. Like he feels like it represents chaos to him somehow or another. But those statues, they just strike me as very, 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 very different from what you would expect from, for example, Anne Orlando or New Lando's architecture. We could look more. I can't remember if those dogs appear anywhere else in the game. Curl up like a ball. And there are basically two schools of thought when it comes to the crow. One is thinking Velka, Velka, Velka because of her association with crows. But another one is thinking more along the lines of kind of a meta Norse mythology sort of influence or inspiration. Like if you consider Gwyn to be kind of an Odin figure, then the representation of crow there. Like, me personally, I really wouldn't say one way or the other. There's just not a whole lot of evidence. I personally would lean a little bit more towards Velka, but that's once again, that's entirely just my speculation. I was trying to be really slick about this. After panning the camera around and having a good look around, I was trying to jump back down into that hole, but I actually jumped over it. Hi, Petrus. Petrus is like, I see this shit all the time. With my bowl cut, man. I ain't nothing phased my bowl cut. I'm gonna go ahead and get some souls here and upgrade our pyromancy flame a little bit. Not too much, not too much. We don't want to do too much. We are gonna upgrade it a little bit. And of course, since we're talking about fire and darkness, let's talk to a man who knows a little something about fire.
Oh, hello there. I'm pleased to see you safe, as always. If you provide the materials, I can teach you pyromancy. My teacher, whom I imagine still resides in the Great Swamp, had a funny way of putting it. He said that pyromancy is the ultimate fantasy. We are born into dark and warmed by fire, but this fire we cannot touch. Those whose fascination with fire persists learn to hold it in their own hand. He rather had a way with words, the old withering frog. In this land, pyromancers earn a certain respect. The Witch of Izalith, one of the legendary lords, is the godmother of pyromancy. So the day I became undead, I was ecstatic. I felt as if I'd been chosen to attune myself to the ancient arts. Of course, it wasn't all that romantic in the end. The pyromancer's flame is a part of his own body. The flame develops right along with his skill. When I gave you that flame, I gave you a part of myself. Please take good care of it. Goodbye then. Come back if you find anything new.
I am Marcus, and we are always finding new stuff. Catch you guys next time, and we'll share the flame.